Shouldn't love have wings if by tomorrow love grew silver wings, then I could fly away.
Let us turn back once more to the Second World War and the bombing runs non-stop relay, which night after night the RAF saw and the US Air Force day by day. A group of these day raiders, B-17s, are way up on a high-flying mission, packed together, their guns forming defensive screens, but one is way out of position. Well down beneath where the vapour trails flow, and some way back after the stream, there's one straggling bomber, too low and too slow, in which things are as daft as they seem. Manning the cockpit, a couple of toys. Lord knows what determines their course, with no trace of the crew of American boys, and neither dressed for the right Air Force. They're magical toys who by some phenomenon come alive through our small childlike hidden eye, at which people must scoff, but in fact it's a common one. Said it was magical, didn't I? Just one strange episode in the life of a teddy, of many now long in the past, and all very odd. But I'll start, if you're ready, on this one, the third and the last.
Faith, stay with me till tomorrow, holding hands across the sky. Simply I trust, I must till you're home again I'll try. But why shouldn't love have won?
After a time with a Spitfire flight, and about to regain his acquaintance with one Bunny Blake, he was casually perched on the tail of a plane, which took off, with him on, by mistake. It happened the plane ride was just a short trip to the nearest US base, Rise Landing. He'd managed to hang on, but just lost his grip and bounced off on the runway when landing. Nobody noticed. He stayed there all night, and part of the morning next day. It was only on runway check for the big flight. Someone said, "There's a dog in the way," or something that's been in a fight. It looks dead. The jeep sped to the spot where it found none other, of course, than our brave hero Ted, in a sad little heap on the ground. Well now, teddy bear, just what are you? Conjured up by the town's necromancer? Or a symbol of some kind dropped out of the blue? I'm not really expecting an answer. Hey, looks like another of them mascot things, Hal. They turn up here like we're expecting them. Yeah, we've already adopted that blonde German gal. Okay then, looks like we're collecting them. What exactly that meant, Ted was not yet to know, but for now heard the news with elation that meantime it seemed he'd be joining the show with a big US Air Force formation. For the rest of the day, as he'd been all messed up, he was sorted out by a nice lady. Next day he was taken, all smart and dressed up, to a plane called Sweet Rosie O'Grady. Here, Mac, how'd you like a new friend? Can you find him a place that'll suit him? A teddy bear, Limey. Well, ain't that the end? And an officer. Shall I salute him? Out on the airfield, the ground crews and staff, on the grass, round the tower, on the track, waiting anxiously, albeit with a joke and a laugh, for those on that day's ops to come back. And soon they roll in with all sorts of damage, gaping shell holes, shot gunnery hatch, tailplane missing. The pilots can just about manage, and some without even a scratch. The last one arrives, well, one minus really, coming in on the verge of a stall, which, it seems, with so many bits missing clearly, should hardly be flying at all. And suddenly it isn't, and lands with a crash, skidding along quite a distance. No explosions. The rescuers make off at a dash. These boys would need lots of assistance. On the tarmac, that drab English wet afternoon, in the autumn, or what they call fall, Mac stood for a while, but turned away soon, shrugged and said, "Well, you can't win 'em all." Mac, next day, was scheduled to make up the crew of a plane that had had a few losses. "Hiya, Mac, that your mascot? Sure, bring him up too. But the one up the front is the buses." The sergeant's side gunner hung him up on a catch, in a place which afforded a view so large you'd see every attack from this side through the hatch, where the port gun fired out of the fuselage. Yeah, we all give her a pat when we're going to fly. She's called Heidi. Isn't she neat? You know, Heidi high and like high in the sky. About 25,000 feet. She's got a letter tucked here in her pants. What it is, we can't really determine. It's from someone called Helga to someone called Hans. Max said, "Let's see, I know some German." Darling Hans, I'm with you. We're never apart in our love. This must be so for you. And here, ever here, in my head and my heart. And my head and my heart are both true. The lives of our bodies, just the words make me glow. Big events for a little time sever. You must bring yours safely back home to me, though, or mine will be blighted forever. So I now send you Gretchen, the doll in the shop, which you said looks so much like me. I think she is prettier, but you must not. Think me near to you now, as is she. This letter, not pleased for the eyes of your crew, tuck away neath her petticoat lace. In mine, too, is a copy which you, only you, may ever remove and replace. God be with you, and guard you from enemy harms, till you're back from the dangers above. And in not just my heart, but my eyes and my arms, soon, please, darling, your Helga, your love. Said the skipper, "Well, he won't be back, I'm afraid. The doll's from a plane that was wrecked. An ME-410 shot down on a raid. Well, that's what we all have to expect." There were 10 airmen in that bomber's crew. More than a lank, Teddy noted. He wondered at first what so many would do, till he saw all the firepower they toted. When he'd taken all this hardware in, Teddy thought, this is it. Now I know what it means when they talk about things that they call flying fortresses. It's these great B-17s. Right now, though, the crew were all checking their guns, instruments, controls, ammunition, for the takeoff on one of those big bombing runs, in a tense but excited condition. The plane, battle-fit, fully armed, fully manned, taxis out and now turns as it takes its place, revving up on the runway they stand, the props straining hard on the brakes. Full revs and off, the thundering machine accelerates, pushing them back, lift-off speed, then, unreal like a film on the screen, a runaway horse in their track. Yanking back the stick, they get just about clear, but that puts the plane nearly in stall, and the end of the runway is getting too near, as back on the tarmac they fall. Too late to abort, there's no other way out. Still bouncing, the big plane just clinches enough of the air, and then suffers a clout from a fence, but stays airborne by inches. Coaxed into climbing, the aircraft reacted. "Wheels up!" called as they all thanked their luck, but one wheel leg was bent and hadn't retracted, and just wouldn't move. They were stuck. They couldn't crash land with the bomb load they'd got. It seemed that the best thing to do was to go out to sea and jettison the lot. But they then found the bomb doors stuck too. This sortie now, they certainly can't fly, and with full bomb loads stuck in the rack and bomb doors inoperative, they're stranded on high and can neither go on nor go back. After protracted talk with the tower, they're told, "Fly over base, then turn about. Set automatic pilot, course Dortmund, and hold. And then all the crew bail out." The mascots, if thrown out, would not have a chance, smashed or lost, a hopeless position. It was felt they deserved the more dignified stance of flying the aircraft's last mission. "Just in case they do make it, we'll give them a note. Plenty more where these came from, Fritz," is scrawled on some paper and stuck on Ted's coat, as he now in the pilot's seat sits. The skipper says, "Well, kids, sorry to desert." To Ted, "Good luck, carry on, Jeeves," in mock English style, then lifts Heidi's skirt, pats her bottom, salutes her, and leaves. Ted now got a look at her. Here in the gap between seats the doll figure dangled, with dolly-sized goggles and Luftwaffe cap, on her head rather jauntily angled. Apart from which she wore traditional dress, and her hair was in braids, neat and tidy. Her face wore a bland but quite pretty expression. "Ah," said Ted, "so this then is Heidi." And that's how, way back from the rest of the boys, one plane's lagging with no rate of climb, one wheel down and deserted, apart from two toys, falling further behind all the time. Hours later, they're suddenly hit by a stream of cannon fire. One of the props is shattered. Its engine runs up to a scream, belts smoke, and then splutters and stops. A fighter attack. Ooh, what next would he do? Or had the fighter departed already, spooked by a bomber without any crew? Except for a doll and a teddy. Ted, in the pilot's seat, just doesn't know the controls. Anyway, what the hell? We'll crash somewhere. Suppose I could have a go, though, at a target of sorts. Might as well. That's if automatic pilot G. George will let go. He gave various buttons a shove. How does it disengage? Blowed if I know. I do, came Heidi's voice from above. Ted, somewhat cautiously at first, took a peek, cleared his throat, then said, with his gaze rising, I'm surprised to find, that dollies can speak. I'm surprised you find that so surprising. But I'm not helping you damage my people below. Oh, you're the enemy, are you? Well, thanks. They're your people, are they? Suppose so. I don't know, since I've now spent more time with the Yanks. Well, enemy or not, they're not much like friends. You might like to ponder that thesis. But if I'm not mistaken, the message this sends is they'd quite like to blow us to pieces. Anyway, I meant railways, munitions and all. The slow-flying craft gave a tremor. Will we know which is which? No, we're nearly in stall. All we need is a moral dilemma. OK, help me down then, we'll see what's in store. Which he did, but a spark from some static caught them both by surprise, and they fell on the floor. But she soon disengaged automatic. Though they now would have some control, working in tandem, what you do in a quandary like that? Crash where you choose instead of at random. What would any toys do? Have a chat. You're called Heidi, not Gretchen. Well, it's hard to say. I was Gretchen till Hans lost his life. To the Americans, I'm Heidi. So Heidi I'll stay, unless I get back to Helga, his wife. Must be awkward for you, said Ted. Not at all clear where you're at. Heidi hadn't replied. Sort of what's a nice girl like you doing here, in the war zone and on the wrong side? Well, you know us mascots, it's not really sides. We're for people in need to invoke as their alter egos and spirits and guides, so they have to pretend it's a joke. While listening, Ted fiddled the radio, but static and weak signals prevailed. Then, quite strong, came some music and Heidi became quite dramatic. Wait there, actually, that was their song. With hands flying, Helga chose me to be there as the spirit of her by his side. And that's where I was while he lived in the air. And that's where I was when he died. The plane is now very low. The bomb weight and drag of the part-lowered undercart takes toll on the airspeed, and with one US engine they flag. Indeed, there's not that much left to control. We're over a city, wherever we are. Ted's eyes did less seeing than straining. We're bound to hit something. Can't get very far. And it doesn't help much that it's raining. Looks like them and us. We can't, with all effort, get it right or be even heroic. Bit dicey, said Ted, with a knack of the R.A.F. at understatement and trying to be stoic. Dicey? It's fatal. Never mind dicey, them and us, Heidi said with a shiver. Then, as the rain ceased, Hey, do you see what I see? And they both saw a glint. It's a river! Good. Quick, we'll S-bend to try losing height, but it's going to take all our force. One chance not to explode, and survive we just might. Though we could end up soggy, of course. The thing is, I'm not high enough when I look. For landing, I can't see the ground. You could guide if we get you back up on the hook. That's no good. I'll keep spinning around. And it's not into the ground, but the river we're pitching, isn't it? Ted replied, a bit frantic. Yes, all right then. We're not landing, but ditching. This is no time to be so pedantic. I just want to be clear, that is all. Near despair, Ted said, It'll be too late in a minute. I'll sit on your shoulders. I can guide you from there. Ah, flying angel. That's quite good, really, isn't it? Experience you need at the best of times trying to handle aircraft of this sort. Links. Yes, link trainers and instructor-led flying. I mean left. Oh, I see, said Ted. Port. Yes, port. Left, left, left. No, back right a bit. Stop. Stop. You know what I mean. Hold it there. Thus the plane was coaxed down by a dolly on top of its unsighted pilot, a bear. Before touching the surface, Ted lifted the nose, and the water was wildly sprayed all around them like jets from a fireman's hose, till they stopped by the bank, where they stayed. After examining them, identifying Heidi's first owner from insignia and letter, the Germans, quite taken with the message idea, decide they will go just one better. The American airbase, they could tell from the plane, Heidi's old squadron, when next on a blitz, on that target would just drop him back there again, to the note adding missed and signed Fritz. Soon after then, both on a night mission flew, she as mascot up front, as befitting a repatriatee, given all honours due, and Ted by the radio op sitting where he could just see Heidi. He thought she looked sad, despite what was of course her fixed smile. He at least had a parachute, that wasn't bad. After all, he'd be dropping a mile. RT silence is crucial in the area patrolled by Britain's night fighter defences. The wireless op's gone forward. Heidi's look now a scold, as Teddy's intention she senses. Suddenly the raiders' course and position in an English voice clearly announced. They were quickly picked out from that one brief transmission, were jumped from behind and got trounced. Suffering serious damage, the plane was turned round, but it soon was apparent to see they'd not make it back. Look out for some clear ground. A forced landing it had to be. The pilot, in darkness, has done all he could, but they crash, ruining all landing gear, eventually settling inside a dense wood. All the crew struggle out, disappear. It's amazing how wrecks from the Second World War remain undiscovered. One Friday, quite recently, men working on clearing the woods saw a plane's wing. That's how Teddy and Heidi in that overgrown crater were stumbled upon, midst crawly things, bracken and clover. So, 3 air forces later, and 60 years on, Ted's war was finally over. Understandably grubby, they seemed somewhat unfit for a nursery school, but cleaned up and tidy, Ted now sits with composure and looks every bit the toy war hero. So too does Heidi. So, when the nursery's newest arrival that day had seen all around the large room and heard all the stories and learned of the way that Ted had done what and with whom, he could well imagine that he'd known Ted too, and the characters he had befriended, and all the adventures, as we hope do you, now that the stories have ended. Such strange things have been said to have happened already, and no doubt there'll be many more, but they'll have to go some way to rival a Teddy who once flew in the Second World War.
Fairy queens and kings, roundabouts and swings, but shouldn't love have wings?